Alright, I'm going to start work on Tenka now. I'm actually going to start on the sword. Mainly because the guy that does the posing and whatnot for me is actually going to add the little formers and whatnot to the model. But he's going to take a little while because, again, real world stuff and whatnot. So I want to at least build something for her, and I want to start off with the sword. So the first thing I need to do is I need to get my printer reset up. I originally had my printer set up right here. But since I got this old shelf, which used to be in my mother and father's room, and now I'm actually utilizing it because this thing was literally collecting dust in their room, I decided to move all my crap that I can into this thing to kind of clean up my room. I'm still in the process of getting everything squared away, but the printer and whatnot is over here now and not cluttering up this area, which is currently being cluttered up by this junk here, but that's neither here or there. So what I need to do is I need to extend the power supply, that way so I can actually get it to go from where I actually have the, where I actually have some wall, whatever these things are called, and extend it all the way from here to over here. So to do that, I went to my local hardware store and I got some wire. So I'm going to get all this set up and then I'm going to come back. And here I was thinking I could have a Griffin stream up and running and keep myself occupied. Unfortunately, he has decided to change off to Tard Man. I cannot handle Tard Man cringe. Sorry, Griffin. I'll keep the live stream up so I can at least keep your numbers going. But I'm fucking muting it because fuck Tard Man and his cringy ass cringe. So with that said, let's get back to getting my printer set up for Tenka and whatnot. Alright, I got the extension added. I went through the extra effort and physically soldered the wires together. That way so I don't have any intermittent power and whatnot. So now what I gotta do is I gotta route everything behind the actual dresser and on the floor and whatnot, plug it in and hope to God the thing doesn't blow up. So I'll go and get everything set up and we'll plug it in and see what happens. Alright, I got the wire all set up and I got it routed. Got some duct tape on the ground to make sure I don't trip over it. And the actual length is just enough to where the power supply fits right back there somewhere. And the actual power cable is right here, so let's plug it in and see what happens. There it goes. Normally it's supposed to turn on the instant you plug in power, but it seems to still be working. So with that said, I'm going. I already got some paper in it, so I could just need to go into Papercraft and get everything set up so I can actually start printing. So with that said, I'm going to get everything set up for the first round of printing, and then I'll come back. One thing I will need to do is I will need to go and clean the heads and realign them because I haven't touched this thing in a while. And that's one of the annoying parts about using third-party ink, is that if you don't use this printer for a long time, you gotta go in there, realign it, and clean out the cartridges. So I'm going to do all that off camera and come back when I actually start the process of building the first part of the sword. Alright, I got the first set already set up in Papercraft. I'm currently printing it out, and I'm also losing brain cells. As much as I like Papa Gundam, these TikTok videos that he's been uploading, they literally kill brain cells. And no, it's not Papa Gundam that's causing brain cell death. It's the people Papa Gundam shows in the videos that are causing brain cell death. Well, I'm going to do a little bit of a Wings of Redemption moment right now. My room's a little hot, so I'm running my AC unit. So with that said, I had to find a pole that's long enough to maintain the actual structural integrity of the sword. Luckily I found this old wooden dowel I believe I used to stand up jack of all things. This is an old pole, and luckily it's big enough and long enough to where I can fully support the actual sword. And all I gotta do now is just make sure I get the dowel properly centered inside here, and then just heave hot glue in this thing and hope to God that wooden dowel stays put and whatnot. Heck, I was initially thinking of destroying this sword from Genshin Impact, I believe you pronounce it. I made this sword some time ago, and I was going to steal the dowel from this. But since I got a dowel that actually works, I think I'm going to keep this sword for a little more longer. I'll eventually destroy it because I don't really play Genshin Impact that much, and I don't really have any attachment to the sword, so I'm probably just going to eat it. And I'm going to continue on working with Tenko's. Gosh dang, I still can't probably pronounce the name. I'll come back when I get to a point with the sword. Alright, so here's where I'm at for today. I'm actually calling it because I'm fairly sleepy right now. I'll be finishing this sucker off tomorrow when I wake up. I also need to go in there and do more proper reinforcements for this area right here and make sure the actual blade is nice and sturdy. I don't know exactly how I'm going to reinforce the bottom bit of the blade. I'll figure something out. But considering I'm not really going to be swinging this thing around that much, I don't need to go too in depth on making the bottom blade super robust. The only part I really care about is making sure the actual wooden dowel in the upper section of the blade is a more stronger section, because that's where all the weight is right now. And it's also how I have the dowel rod set up right there and whatnot. So at least the idea I had in my head that does in fact work. And all I gotta do now is go in there, properly add in the reinforcements where I need to, and then of course finish the rest of the actual sword off. So yeah, I'll come back a little later tomorrow when I get this thing near completed or completed. Alright, surprisingly enough, it took basically half the night to get all these little reinforcements installed. And again, it's not because I'm lazy, it's because I have to wait for the hot glue to dry off before I actually go and add the next set of reinforcements. And the area that took up most of the time was this little area right here that I had to go and do more proper reinforcements on and whatnot. And this area down here. Granted, this area right here is not going to get reinforced due to the way I really can't figure out how to properly put some popsicle sticks in here and have them secured properly, because I can't really get in there with my hands and whatnot to make sure they're properly secured. I'll probably come up with something. I have an idea in my head to get it to figure it out. But what I'm going to do first is I'm actually going to give myself some food. And then what I'm going to do is that once I either figure out how to properly get this done, then I'm properly reinforced and whatnot, again I doubt I will, then the next bit will be me building the actual bottom half of the sword, and then building the little piece right here that goes right here, which I actually have printed out right there. And I'm also working on this laptop here to get it set up to be my computer for my TV right here. That way so I can do some streaming services and whatnot. Normally I'll put Windows 7 on a computer of this age, but for the particular streaming apps I want to use, I'm better off using the Windows 10 Store app version, because it'll be a lot less harder to run than if I was running the exact same services through like Chrome and whatnot. These older computers really don't do well for streaming, and if I play on a dedicated application, the chances of this computer actually handling it is a lot more, is increased quite a bit. So with that said, I'm going to get my food before it gets cold. Wings of Redemption moment yet again. It's fairly hot in my room, so the AC unit is on. With that said, I found a way to stick some shims in there to reinforce at least this little middle section here from crunching. And basically it's just this nice little stick with the shim attached to it with hot glue. I'm just going to put a nice gob of hot glue right there on the edge where the shim is. And then I'm just going to press and hold it on the actual wooden dowel, and I'm going to do the same thing again to the other side, and that should be more than enough to maintain this actual piece from really deforming and whatnot, because again, this thing's not going to be swung around and whatnot. If anything, when it comes to me carrying this thing around, I'm eventually going to end up carrying this thing around like a shotgun and whatnot, because of how heavy this thing is. Even though it's made out of paper, it is fairly heavy. So yeah. So I'm going to get these little shims attached, and then I'm going to build the bottom blade, and as you can see right here, I already have them printed out and ready to go for folding. I'm going to build the bottom blade, come back, show you what the bottom blade looks like, and then build the little section that goes here, and then the sword will be done. I'm going to say maybe 7:30 or so. Well, my timing was completely off by quite a few hours. With that said, the sword is now complete. Now, unfortunately, I did damage the other side when I was outside taking pictures of this thing. Let me go and show you the damage. It's mostly just water spots. I thought, when I placed it down, I thought the grass was dry. Unfortunately, it was not, so I got little water spots here and there on this side of the sword. With that said, I may eventually get annoyed by these water dots so much that I'll actually go and rebuild the sword again. And I'll use this sword as an actual template to know how to rebuild it again and make it even better. Mainly what I want to do if I was going to rebuild this thing was actually add LEDs into this little groove area right here, because these are actually supposed to glow white if my memory serves from the anime. So I gotta go into the textures and modify these to show white instead of just what they currently are right now, and then somehow add some LEDs inside the actual sword. So when I flip a little switch, probably will be, I want to say there or so, that the lights will turn on and this area will actually glow and whatnot. But for right now, I'm just going to take this up as a complete build, and it came out incredibly well, even with the damage on the side right here, which again sucks. But at the very least, if I do take this to my local anime con, which I don't know if there's going to be one this year, and someone asks about the dots and whatnot, I can explain what happened and why, even though I like this hobby, it does have its problems. Mainly, if you're not careful enough, you can accidentally damage what you build. Luckily, this really hasn't happened to any of my builds, so I'm not too concerned. But it is something I do need to keep remembering myself when it comes to these things and taking them outside and whatnot, or well, doing anything with them at all, especially in my room. These two fish tanks, I gotta be very careful around these things. Let alone, apparently, I gotta be careful around grass too. Now, when it comes to Tenka actually holding this thing, the actual model and whatnot, this thing is just way too heavy for that. I mean, heck, this thing's made out of paper, and there's a wooden dowel and whatnot that you saw in there, and that alone is enough to actually add creasing to the handle right here, which you really can't see due to the way this handle is designed. But again, when it comes to me wanting to rebuild this thing, which I really think I'm going to due to this handle and whatnot and how I build it, is because right here it's all squishy, and right here it's actually nice and fairly robust, but not fully. So again, I'm definitely going, no, not definitely, but if I am going to rebuild this thing, the handle area is also going to be severely looked into. Now, when it came to actually making sure these are all nice and robust, it actually came out fairly fine. I mean, heck, I even managed to make this area robust. So, I guess I'll just end it like this. If I do decide to rebuild this sword again, I'm going to hopefully try and make it a little bit more better, and hopefully make it a little bit more faster, since I built this one and I know what needs to be done. So with that said, now I need to wait for the guy that does the posing and whatnot to add the formers to Tenka. That way, so I can build Tenka. Now with that said, even if he did decide to do the pose formers today, I really can't do anything because my printer is actually out of ink, or it's very low, as you can see. I can probably print out maybe the legs of Tenka, but that's about it. So I gotta get some new printer ink and whatnot. So for the time being, I don't think I'll be building anything for Tenka, so don't expect an upload for maybe a week or two, unless something happens, obviously. But I'm going to say 1 to 2 weeks, depending on what's going on.